Really is. It is Saturday, July 4th, 2026, the 250th anniversary of the country.
A massive milestone.
Huge. And to examine where the country stands today, we are looking at a really fascinating, highly detailed article. It's titled The Progressive Critique of the American Dream.
Yeah, and the mission here is to explore the sources analysis of a recent speech given by New York City Mayor Zohran Kwame Mamdani.
Right, and the focus is this really stark comparison between the original constitutional vision of the U.S. and modern progressive political goals.
But before we get into the weeds here, we need to be really clear about how we're approaching this source material.
Yeah, absolutely. The text we're analyzing takes a very sharp, highly critical stance on modern progressive politics and the mayor himself.
Right, and we are not taking a side here. We are not endorsing these viewpoints, and we aren't here to criticize the mayor either.
Exactly. Think of our role as, like, political tour guides.
Yeah, I like that. We're just impartially unpacking the arguments strictly from the text so you, the listener, can understand the mechanics of this ideological clash.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start with the visual imagery of this speech because the contrast the author points out is just wild.
It really sets the scene, doesn't it?
It does. So Mayor Mamdani is standing at George Washington's actual historic desk at City Hall.
Right, and given the date, the 250th anniversary, and that specific setting, you naturally anticipate soaring rhetoric about the American experiment.
Yeah, some real fireworks and celebration. But the critique points out that instead, he delivered this sweeping indictment of America's moral failures.
Yeah, he went right after monopolies, oligarchs, corporate landlords.
He called out ICE, the Immigration Enforcement Agency, and talked about bailouts. He basically painted a picture of a nation where children go hungry despite massive, hoarded wealth.
And the author of our source frames this as a pretty standard progressive grievance list. But the real friction the author highlights isn't just the message.
Right.
It's the messenger, the person delivering it.
Yeah, and this is where I got genuinely tripped up reading the text.
Yeah.
Because, when you hear a politician rail against the elite structure of America, you kind of assume they came from the bottom.
Right. The classic underdog narrative.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I assumed he arrived with nothing, faced systemic barriers, and is now, speaking truth to power. But looking at his background in the article, that is not the case at all.
Not even a little bit. The source points out he was born in Uganda to a highly privileged, globally connected family.
Right.
His father is a prominent Columbia University professor of government, and his mother is an internationally famous film director.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he grew up completely steeped in these elite academic and artistic circles. He had all the access and cultural status you can imagine.
Right, so it feels like, and the author leans into this irony, it feels a bit like a CEO cashing a massive bonus check while aggressively complaining about corporate greed.
It's a great analogy.
Because the author even points out the financial irony here. He's delivering this harsh socialist critique while collecting a taxpayer-funded salary of, what was it?
Over $250,000.
Right, $258,750 a year.
Exactly. And the expert synthesis here, the reason the author says this matters, is that it represents a brand new political model.
Okay, how so?
Well, the old model was the immigrant who arrives, uses the freedoms and institutions to build a life, and shows gratitude toward that system.
The classic American dream trope.
Right. But the new model, according to the source, is that members of the global elite use America's institutions and wealth to gain power, only to then use that power to lecture the taxpayers funding them.
Wow. To tell them that the country is fundamentally flawed.
Exactly. And to justify that kind of positioning, to keep the moral high ground while sitting in immense privilege, you can't rely on traditional history.
Oh, right. You have to completely re-engineer the historical narrative to fit your modern political goals. Which brings us to the second segment of the article, looking at how the speech attempts to redefine American history.
Yeah, specifically redefining the founders.
Right. So Mamdani's speech grouped Puritans, Sikhs, Quakers, Muslims, and Jews all together.
Yeah, framing them as this one unified early chorus of oppressed people who just arrived on American shores together.
And the source has this incredible, very specific phrase for this historical framing. The author calls it an Olivier salad of progressive memory.
Yeah, I love that term.
I actually had to look up what an Olivier salad was.
It's in here. It's this incredibly heavy traditional dish, right?
Yeah. You take the diced potatoes, vegetables, eggs, meat, and you just drown it all in mayonnaise until everything blends into one uniform, indistinguishable texture.
It's like you can't even taste the individual ingredients anymore.
Exactly. And the expert critique here is that modern progressive rhetoric takes colonial history, late immigration, and asylum politics, chomps them all up.
Stirs them in mayonnaise, basically.
Right, stirs in buzzwords like supremacy, and serves it as a single cohesive narrative for a July 4th talking point.
But the article highlights a really poignant detail where that narrative completely falls apart. It's about the mention of early Muslims in America.
Yeah, this part was heavy. Mamdani grouped them alongside Quakers and Puritans as if they were willing participants in a progressive founding coalition.
But the National Park Service data cited in the text paints a profoundly different reality.
Right.
While early Muslims were indeed in America, they were mostly tragically enslaved people violently ripped from Africa.
Yeah.
They were not a wave of free founders seeking religious liberty.
Which raises a really probing question for you, the listener, to think about. Is it dangerous when politicians compress complex, tragic history just to create a convenient modern political slogan?
Well, what's fascinating here is how modern progressive goals actually require flattening history into this strict binary.
Just oppressors versus oppressed.
Exactly, because if you want to unite modern voting blocs that have absolutely nothing in common, different religions, economic backgrounds, you need an artificial glue.
Ah, so you create a singular historical oppressor to rally against.
Right. You retrofit the past to build a modern political coalition in the present.
Which naturally leads to the core focus of our deep dive today. If you're redefining history, you eventually have to clash with the actual written rule book of the country.
The Constitution.
Exactly. The original constitutional vision versus these modern progressive goals. And Mamdani claimed that American exceptionalism isn't about wealth or power. He said it's the idea that, quote, here, nothing is fixed forever.
Which sounds really poetic on the surface.
It does. It sounds super adaptable. But the source contrasts this heavily with the original constitutional reality.
Yeah, because while Article V allows for amendments, the Constitution explicitly calls itself the supreme law of the land.
Right. It's not just a suggestion.
Exactly. It's a firm foundation. It's not a cafe napkin where any new ideologue can just scribble a brand new definition of the country.
Going back to that OS analogy, right? For the original founders, the Constitution was the bedrock. It was the core code.
Yeah.
But the author argues that modern progressives treat it like a house that just needs a gut renovation, where you can casually knock down load-bearing walls.
And this brings up one of the most memorable takeaways from the entire text. It's what the author calls the JFK flip.
Oh, this is brilliant. Let's break this down.
So the old American ideal, the cultural bedrock, was JFK's famous line, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Right, a focus on civic duty and contribution.
But the source claims the new progressive goal completely inverts that. The new motto is essentially, ask what your country can apologize for, pay for, rename, redistribute, deconstruct, and confess, preferably before lunch.
Wow. Preferably before lunch. It's a total inversion. It treats the Republic not as a shared project, but as something inherently guilty. Well, here's where it gets really interesting, because the author points out what Mamdani's speech completely missed about the founding document.
The preamble.
Right. The Constitution begins with "we, the people of the United States." It doesn't say "we, the global coalition of the offended."
Yeah, that's a sharp distinction the author makes.
The original vision was built on concrete principles: labor, the rule of law, property, responsibility, and freedom.
Which sets up the ultimate irony that the source points out.
The geopolitical reality check.
Exactly. If America is truly as oppressive, broken, and systemically unfair as this progressive critique claims,
Yeah.
why is the line of immigrants trying to get in virtually endless while there's absolutely no line of people trying to leave for a socialist paradise?
People vote with their feet, right?
Yes.
If the operating system is a virus, why is everyone on Earth trying to download it?
Exactly. The system Mamdani is attacking is the exact system that allowed him, the son of international elites, to become the mayor of the largest city in the country.
The foundation of law and democratic process is what enabled his ascent in the first place. You can't really sit on the shoulders of a successful system, use it to gain power, and then claim it's designed to keep everyone down.
Right. The author argues it just defies political reality.
So what does this all mean for you? Why are we spending time unpacking this specific ideological clash?
Because it's a diagnostic tool, really.
Exactly. Understanding this clash helps you decode modern political rhetoric. The next time you hear a political speech, you can critically analyze the underlying mechanics.
You can ask yourself, is the speaker trying to build on a foundational constitutional vision?
Right. Are they proposing an update through established code? Or are they actively trying to deconstruct it, using that Olivier salad of history to push a new progressive goal?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it leaves us with a really provocative final thought.
Yeah, lay it on us.
If a nation's leaders and its foundational texts are operating on completely different definitions of what the country is supposed to be, how long can that society actually maintain a unified national identity?
That is a heavy question. If every generation just rewrites the base code from scratch, ignoring the original structure, the system eventually
It's
crashes.
something to seriously ponder.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. Keep questioning the narratives, keep looking at the underlying code, and we'll see you next time.